Hello my creepy cupcakes and welcome back, or welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm doing this look inspired by Pan's Labyrinth. Let's get into the video. To get started, we need to make this mask. So what I'm doing is I'm working on my face cast and I'm applying some plasticine clay to my face cast. I'm going to start rounding out the features on my face so that there is like a nice bulbous look to my face. I'm just looking at a reference image of the Pale Man. I've made my own liquid latex paste with liquid latex and flour, mixed that up, and I'm applying that right on top of that clay. Once that paste is applied, I'm dipping my finger in some liquid latex to start smoothing out the entire surface of that liquid latex. I'm referencing Ellimorph's tutorial on this same look, and if you want to check out their video, I'll also link it down below. To make the eye holes, I'm using a brush handle and I'm just digging that into some liquid latex, and then I'm going to puncture into the liquid latex right where the eye holes should be at. Next, I'm moving on to the chin portion and I'm just applying some liquid latex paste to that chin area. Once that's applied, I do get that nice and smoothed out. I like to set my liquid latex works to the side and I like to let them dry overnight. But what you can do is, if you don't want to do that, you can just pop it into the microwave for about 10 seconds. Don't put it in any longer than that, else it will completely ruin your entire piece and you'll have to start over. And that's from speaking from experience, okay? To make the flappy bits, I'm using some wire that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just making them into this little U shape and wrapping some Scotch tape around them. You can use Scotch tape, masking tape, electrical tape, whatever kind of tape you got. Just make sure to wrap it up so that the liquid latex has something to stick to. I got them all lined up and then I stuck them into the liquid latex cast that I already have so far, and then I'm applying some liquid latex paste to the tops of those. Once that's applied, I'm going to start smoothing that out so we have a nice smooth surface. Once that surface is all nice and smooth, you're gonna go ahead and flip the mold over and you're gonna start working on the back side of that, because you definitely want the liquid latex to be on the underside, you know, in case anybody's creeping back there or something, you know, because they won't be, but you'll know that you didn't put liquid latex there, so you need to. So now we want to start working on the next like saggy bit of skin that he has. So I let that sit overnight and then I'm applying the liquid latex again to start working on that little sag skin portion. That sounds so disgusting, but you guys know what I mean when I say it, so we have to work with that. I'm also applying some liquid latex to where that flappy bit and the chin meet, so I wanted that to be rounded out. After I smoothed out that next saggy bit of skin, I'm applying the next liquid latex batch for the next drooping saggy skin portion. So that's what I'm doing here, is just applying that liquid latex, exactly what we did before. I didn't want to have to let that sit overnight, so it kind of didn't come out as like bumpy as I wanted it to. It kind of like flattened out a little bit because it's liquid latex going on top of wet liquid latex. So once that dried down a bit, I did go back on top of it and add a little bit more liquid latex, but I just didn't want to keep having to wait days in between to do this. And since there's wire that's already inside of the mask, I'm not going to throw that inside the microwave. I let that dry overnight, and now I'm going to be doing the last saggy bit of skin. So I'm applying that liquid latex, I'm getting that all nice and smoothed out, and then I'm going to start working that into the dried liquid latex, trying to make that as smooth as possible so you don't see a harsh line. I let the mask dry overnight, and then I'm applying a white cream on top of that mask. For the coloring part of this portion, I'm taking just a regular brush and I'm dipping it into some red and black cream paints to start giving the eyes some definition to them. For the flappy bits on the face, I'm using some pressed eyeshadows and I'm working with some pink and browns and some red tones to give some definition to each of those flaps and around the mouth. Once the mask is completely colored the way I want, I'm gonna start peeling it from the base cast. So I'm using some translucent powder and I'm going around all the sides because you wanna start lifting each of the sides all the way around to keep the mask from breaking or tearing or sticking to itself. So every time I'm lifting it up, I'm going back underneath each of those areas with some translucent powder that's going to keep the latex from sticking to itself. And just working it just nice and slow and taking my time with this because I don't want to ruin the mask at all. I've already spent so long on it. For the eyepieces, I think I lost some of my footage, but what I did is I just laid down some liquid latex and let that dry down a little bit, and with some Ellimorph plastic, I just made some little plastic eyes and popped those right in the middle and let them dry. Now I'm applying some white cream paint to the top of those, and I'm gonna just do a little bit of a paint job on top of these. I let those dry overnight and then peeled them off. You can see a little bit of that liquid latex is still kind of wet, but I'm just gonna pat that in with some translucent powder and move on. And now it's time to finally paint. So with a sponge and white body paint, I'm gonna be sponging on this white body paint on my neck and my chest. For the wrinkles, I'm dipping into a pinkish brown shade with a flat shader brush, and I'm just going to be drawing out each of these wrinkles first so that I can start figuring out where each of them are gonna go. I'm so stoked to finally be doing this look. I wanted to do this look pretty much since I saw Pan's Labyrinth, so it's been a long time, but I finally felt the confidence in my craft that I could whip this out. So this is actually my second go around doing this, because the first time that I did it, I didn't like the way that I did my arms and the eyes. So this is the second time I did it going around. I would just paint the eyes next time, honestly. Third time, paint the eyes. Since the character himself is pretty much just skin and bone, his skin kind of indents into his ribcage, so that's what I'm trying to emulate here by using this soft brown shade to start kind of getting that shape that I want for the ribcage. With a small fluffy eyeshadow brush, I am dipping into a light brown eyeshadow and I'm going right above each of those lines that I drew, and I'm keeping it nice and tight and adding a shadow above each of those lines. This is going to create some depth for each of those wrinkles and make them look realistic. Once all that shadow is created, I now want to further that shadow by making it a teensy bit darker. So I'm dipping my flat panel brush into a dark brown shadow, and I'm just going on top of each of those lines that I drew from the beginning and just making each of those darker so it creates a way deeper effect. I'm using that same dark brown eyeshadow on the fluffy brush just to start creating a little bit more depth into each of those ribcage pieces, and then I'm also creating some type of like folds on the side of my arm, so I feel like that's where some folds would be as well. And the time has finally arrived to put this mask on, so I'm prepping my skin with some Rose-Aid, and then with the mask, I'm going to go around each of those edges with some liquid latex to make sure that it secures properly to my face. Since the clay was in the middle of that mask, it's not gonna sit nicely against my cheeks or anything like that, so I'm making sure that the edges are completely smothered with that liquid latex. And then just make sure that when you're putting it on, that it's nice and straight, and get those edges nice and pushed down. I could not see out of this mask, so that was kind of a bit of a nightmare, I'm not gonna lie. And off camera, I went ahead and did the eyes in my hand since it was really hard for me to see out of the mask. I couldn't really do it on camera. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to give it a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!